We're just seconds away from our last series here of week number 9. It is No Tomorrow versus Tempo Storm, where No Tomorrow, after their victory Friday, it might be new tomorrow because they looked good on Friday. My name is Jayhow. Dreadnought still here with me. And Dreadnought, No Tomorrow, maybe a team on the rise and climbing out of that crucible spot.
Very much looks like a new day here for them as a roster, and it looks really, really good. The question is does it still uphold against a team as formidable and as veteran as Tempo Storm? And that's what we're here to answer. I'm excited. I am very, very optimistic here for No Tomorrow in the future moving forward.
Let's take a look at the standings so we can put this into some context for you all, because No Tomorrow, after picking up that victory, is also finding themselves in potential playoff positioning, but they have a mountain to climb because they have to win both of their series, and they have to do it convincingly. They face Tempo Storm today, LFM tomorrow. If they lose either of the series, they will be confirmed for Crucible. So they still have a lot to play for. Tempo Storm, after Team Freedom, they're still there. Tempo Storm can still drop out of that number 2 spot. Winning today would be very good for them to hold on to that number 2 spot, meaning only one series would have to be played in the playoffs.
And you know that Tempo Storm very much wants to be able to be in that position, sit back and look at the rest of North America, be like, we got nothing to worry about, especially when you have teams like Team Octalysis. Having more time to look at their drafts through our playoff ladder system, it is going to be very, very valuable there. So important match for Tempo Storm, and very much towards No Tomorrow, not only for that Crucible, but again, I think proving to themselves almost here for this roster.
Well, it's an important part here because now we can look at the expanded standings. And the reason why it's so important, if you look at the win-loss record of LFM, Simplicity, and No Tomorrow, 14 and 32, 14 and 33, 13 and 33. No Tomorrow needs series victory. And the reason why we say they would have to win the next one, because LFM, No Tomorrow could be a decider. So they can still climb their way out. Next weekend, Dreadnought, is going to be crazy when it comes to these 3 teams. And No Tomorrow, they probably have the toughest road of them all, but it starts here. Picking up those wins would be great for them if they want to get into the playoffs and confirm their spot for next year.
It is crazy how tense this has been here when looking towards that Crucible. I don't know if we have had really this, because in the past it was like, you know, who's going to be able to fight their way out of the Crucible here and there, but it wasn't so much between 3 teams, and it was like we actually, you know, up until almost the very last week, and not sure who is going to be anybody within that department right now. Whereas now it feels like Tempo Storm and the rest of North America at the top end, we have stability there for the first time ever. It's just interesting watching that as it moves forward here. But I feel like the performance we got from No Tomorrow, something about how fast that level up from them as a group was, that synergy being displayed. It's going to be dope to see that here again today, if it does come to light, right? At the same time, I feel like it could be almost endemic-esque where we watch 1 week of dominance where you're like, ooh, is this the new moment? And then you look at them next weekend and you're like, okay, you know, it's not holding up, at least not the exact same level it was during those highs.
As much hype has been around Octalysis lately, Tempo Storm has held strong at the number 2 spot, so we'll see. It's a big F. But before we get things started, we heard from both of our teams to talk about this series. Let's check it out.
Our confidence level this week versus No Tomorrow is probably slightly higher than last week, but I've heard that No Tomorrow always end up picking at least one game of each team, so we're just gonna watch out for that and try to have a clean game.
First, Tempo Storm, we know will be a harder match because they want to make sure that they will be, in the worst case, top 2 team. In every team, I always look for someone that I see this guy work hard and I want to work more than he, and they have fun, and we always can see fun playing Hero League after screens, and for me it's always respectful and fun. It's always make you play, right? He's always look for plays. We watched some of his games. Some games they have some inconsistencies that we're gonna try abuse this. We know their weakness and maybe we can find something.
Dread, for No Tomorrow, Jay Shrite has been the rock for that team. We noted some of the stats. He's up there. Total damage per minute. He's in the top 3, top 4 in North America, doing everything for his team that he possibly can. But the thing for me that was really fun to watch was Tomster when he got on Genji and Tomster on some of the playmaking heroes.
Yeah.
living up to that T-God name he earned before. So some of those role changes are starting to take effect, and a lot of it is that backline duo of Shrite and Tomster.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, you know, Casanova on the front line is nothing to laugh at either, but that's like one where we've seen him on Warriors before. So I feel like, you know, he's playing to what we could have kind of expected there. But I will keep saying it. Jin, for me, has been this very, very pleasant surprise within looking in the off lane. He's been very standout here for this roster, and I think moving forward, if he can keep evolving at this level, that the pressure on a macro front, which is not something we talk about when looking at No Tomorrow, eventually very much could add up.
We've seen some really good calls from them as of late. It's time to figure out where they can make their calls, because it's Battleground number 1. It's going to be Tomb of the Spider Queen, a map picked up by Tempo Storm, a map they've picked 4 times. They have played at 7 overall, sitting at a 4-3 record, so not that sparkling record that we know. But we see the bans on Dragonshire, more importantly by No Tomorrow, and Cursed Hollow by Tempo.
Yeah, and for Tempo Storm, seeing them here performing on this patch, draft priority, I think is going to be really, really interesting. Number 1, they're one of the more comfortable teams with putting Larong on the offlane on some of the more vulnerable, kind of susceptible to gank targets, and Genji was kind of the only one we knew who could really consistently apply pressure to that top lane. But I'll keep talking about how Tyrande enables that playstyle to have the support rotation upwards and really set up for those kills. So do we still see that from Tempo Storm? And it goes beyond that. It's just, what does Tempo Storm look like here on this patch? Is the Tyrande a part of their arsenal? Is it not? Because Tempo has always liked to kind of, you know, go their own meta, if you will. Maybe not to the same degree and magnitude as we see from teams like Octalysis, but they were the first team to be like, you know, the 4-man deathball melee compositions. They like being the innovators as well.
No Sergeant Hammer picked up here, as well as the Medivh being denied out. Tempo Storm has never really been the Medivh-style team. The one hero that does start and have an M and an Ev in it, M and a V in it, is the Maev. That scares me more than probably anything. See if No Tomorrow tries to make a play on that with their first pick. But giving the Maev up, Fan has been making a lot of plays. Vin starting to come into his own to follow up on a lot of what Tempo Storm creates.
Yeah, Vin has very much, especially on things like the Genji, been able to stand out quite a bit as of late to get that follow-up, as you said. We're going to find out here for No Tomorrow. What do we get with them in the first pick slot? It's going to be the Johanna.
Interesting.
Johanna is back, sitting at one of the higher priority warriors, it seems like, since the Tyrande patch has come in. I don't know if it's only a direct response to the Tyrande as much as it is wave clear, and the warrior role is becoming more and more valued as well. There's the Maev for Tempo Storm, and they pair it with a Deckard.
That brings up a very interesting draft dynamic for No Tomorrow, is whether they ban out Murden from Cattle, who his 2 most played heroes in their 43 games, 13 on Johanna, 18 on Murden. So 31 of your 43 games, 3/4 of your games have been on 2 warriors. You could say that about a lot of people, but then we look at Diablo being banned out. That's his next highest. And so then you're like, do we take our chances at a Garrosh? Maev Garrosh is pretty terrifying, the amount of displacement that you have there. Johanna does do well to deal with that, as well as Yrel on the front line. So an interesting draft dynamic right away for No Tomorrow they've created.
It will be cool to see if we end up seeing that from them. But another thing maybe to keep in mind here is now that we got the Maev and the Deckard, I guess with the Diablo banned out, I agree with you. It makes a lot of sense, even if beyond Cattle's individual threat within this comp itself, I'd like to see that picked up because it removes the last immediate kill potential warrior to enable the Maev Deckard and whatever warrior crowd control you want. You could argue a Nubia Iraq falls into that, but you already have the Raynor and it's Tomb of the Spider Queen, not necessarily the safest decision making to move into. So it would be a pretty convenient power play. If not, let's see if they focus on the off lane, knowing that they have the Yrel advantage for themselves.
Given that it's Tomb, we already know that Leo is starting to rise against certain compositions, and this is a map, but you mentioned some of the heroes that could be more gankable, if we're going to use that, but Malthael has been showing up more and more to try to be the executioner in that off lane, and that is going to be the pick here.
Still a go two here for Tempo Storm. Also have themselves the Hanzo within the 4-man, pull quite a bit of single target damage. Not going to have the Johanna to enable the wave clear capabilities out of that level 4 talent in that Stormbolt explosion damage, but still not too shabby on a battleground like Tomb.
Akaface has been doing his own thing. Whitemane's available here. He's played it before. He's going to play it now, pairing that with the Junkrat to make sure that they can poke from max range between the Junkrat and the Rainer, that extra range on both of those heroes. But the Whitemane pickup, we saw a couple of Brightwing games just a few days ago. Highly unlikely here on 2.
And the Whitemane has been only just rising in impressiveness, I feel like, for me, when it comes to the supporting capabilities of her as a hero, even with some of the nerfs and adjustments when it comes to the build. And we still see the Arthas selection here for North America. It is with the Maiev on their side, though, this time, not so much against it.
Yeah, Johanna and Yrel do really well. They can get away. Iron Skin can walk away. Yrel can leap away unless you get rooted in the middle of that, but it does bring a certain level of control paired with that Maiev. So if you get the tether and you're trying to walk the other way, Maev's like, that's cool. But with the Johanna there, the Iron Skin, we've talked about it recently, the Laws of Hope versus the Iron Skin cooldown reduction at level 1. Which does that kind of warrant in this situation? The Arthas only amplifies that to me to favor the Iron Skin in this area.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to watch how this develops, because we were talking about which warriors, if the Muradin isn't going to be the go-to in that type of situation, but Arthas does actually kind of do that job better as long as he's in range and he's not risking his HP pool whatsoever. So it is going to be cool to see, you know, does Cattle have that same level of impact within the laning situation? And if so, is it easy for No Tomorrow to be able to handle? Because the Johanna is there, one of the best to be able to deal with this playstyle. The Tempo is going to probably be racking up a couple kills here in the early game in the lane phase.
See if they can make it happen. It's time to get things started. Tempo Storm versus No Tomorrow. Tempo in the left in blue, and that will be Glaurung. He'll be on the mount. They'll Caterpillar onto that Arthas. Van on the Maiev. Ben on Hanzo, and June on Deckard.
And for No Tomorrow here, the new Tomorrow. Nah, it's still No Tomorrow here. We got Casanova on the Johanna. We got Tomster looking to be the T-God on his Rainer. Jay Shrite, the man on Junkrat. Jin playing Yrel. And last up, Akaface playing Whitemane.
The one thing that does concern me, and one of the more reasons why I think I like the Arthas, is we see Casanova walking away. With this style of composition from No Tomorrow, you don't necessarily walk in and force fights. It's more of a defensive style, trying to deal with things. A lot of it will be on Jin and Casanova, as we see Fan go in with a 2-person tether right away, the follow-up with the root, no early kills. But if No Tomorrow does get behind, they have plenty of wave clear, but how do they move forward to get turn-ins? How do they create opportunities? And Arthas, Army of the Dead, surviving against a Rainer and a Junkrat, it seems like he could live all day in that situation.
Yeah, he probably will be able to keep himself up alive pretty effectively here throughout the majority of this game. I don't think that the Arthas pickup, like some of the other ones that we had seen, especially from maybe that of Endemic without the Maiev response, I actually like this one a lot based on the situation. I still am torn on how much I think Arthas is the go-to, but don't get me wrong, I've always wanted to see a little bit more Arthas. Hold on,
oh my.
And caught out a little bit too far there with a very aggressive rotation, and then Tomster gives him pepper, finds first blood.
I think that was mid-animation on the agility. It looked like he tried to flip, and then we got some ragdoll mechanics. That was fun. June, the ever innovative. That's going to be fun. Jin and June, Vin, Fan, all in one game. We got 3-letter names all around the board. But June continue to make his adaptations, field study on his level 1, getting the extra spell power, empowering some of those heals that will come in.
This is a talent I really enjoy. As time has gone on, I'm not so sold on Sapphire value in a lot of situations, but this talent with the field study bonus, as the game moves on later, you become extremely problematic. You even can double it down. The synergies with either one of the 7s on the Herodic Cube benefit this talent as well. For the CDR on the Scroll of Sealing helps whenever, because it helps with your ability power. But then it also puts you into a position that the more... Hold up here. Howling Blast.
Follow-up. Well, that's also going to help. When you've got Arthas on your team, it's like, why do I need the Sapphire slow when I've got a guy that slows an entire area by way of Arthas? That will lead to first kill for Tempo Storm, evening that up 1-1. So it is a fun adaptation, but I agree with you just on the talent alone, regardless of what's in front of him. I've wondered the same thing.
Once you move into the later stages, like post 16 with the bonus damage on the Scroll Ceiling, you can find yourself in a pretty powerful position as the game kind of advances onward here. But Tempo Storm, with that kill that they found for themselves, able to get a little damage here over the middle gate. No, not enough gems from either team yet to be threatening a Web Weaver phase quite yet, but Tempo is eking towards that 50 number.
6 early stacks, as much as we highlight the Murden stacking with the Stormbolt, 6 early stacks on that Frost presence. So completing that Dreadnought, it makes rooting super easy. You can max range that bad boy everywhere and say, look, you're caught in here, you're not going anywhere. It makes it very easy. Gonna miss out on that one, but always a threat.
Yeah, the last Howling Blast on that collapse was really pretty coming out from Cattle. And if we get a few more of those, it might be a lot faster towards completing up that level 1. But Cattle might have a different thing in mind here. Now that he throws down and gets another stack, it's those gems. He actually barely missed. There it is. Got the 20. He is the one who they want to confirm this Web Weaver phase, which is why you see him kind of making the very extra long transition towards bottom. Had to wait out that grenade for a second, but now is able to make his way down and question if he can get this turn in.
Well, No Tomorrow's done a good job of getting gems turned in of their own. Both teams with enough. 43 turned in for No Tomorrow, 30 for Tempo Storm. The more I see this Arthas play, look, Arthas suffers from the lack of mobility. There's no doubting that. But when I need to walk away from a situation and I have a Deckard that can lock down an entire area, that makes it a lot easier. Trying to get the lockdown just before that iron skin wears off, and Casanova able to walk away. But Web Weaver's coming in here for Tempo.
See what Tempo can make happen with it here. Looking like a 1-3-1 split for now. Seems like Tempo now putting a bit more consideration towards top lane as Jay Shrite definitely feeling that message sent out by Vin with that scatter arrow and stormbow use. He can't stick around up there. He is sticking around for now, but I'm not sure that's the best call here, as he did end up getting a tap, but Tempo is going to take advantage of that laning mismatch significantly now.
We'll see how aggressive Vin gets. Once those minions get through, you can walk up and confidently try and play around some of those angles. We'll see if that comes in. For now, No Tomorrow losing a fort here. We know these early forts at this point of the game, as the cleanse comes in, but Tomster still gets tethered. You hold on to your forts. It makes your defense much easier. You don't give up that big snowball in the experience department.
You take a minute to appreciate Jay Shrite's health. It's very, very low on that Junkrat, and he has to sit so far back that now still more damage happening with Vin on that top lane. And that was why I was so concerned with that. Is this top lane gained a lot more value in this type of situation than maybe it should, based on that one trade Vin took with the Scatter Arrow Stormbolt? Is Tempo taking all the small victories here on Tomb of the Spider Queen, finding ways to snowball into a little bit more each and every time.
Well, that was something that I was noting early in the early this phase was Vin's filling his job of just following up, but it's like, we need Vin to be more proactive, do more. And that's a very good sign for Tempo Storm, for him to have that proactive approach to try and force plays outside of the team dynamic. So it's a very good thing you point out there on the evolution of the way he's approached his role with this team.
I've been really satisfied, honestly, with Vin, because he had really big shoes to be able to fill there for Tempo Storm, but he has been a very pleasant surprise as time has gone on here at HGC North America. After that last Howling Blast, Cattle finds himself sitting at 11 stacks, suddenly becoming a pretty major threat there. Not so much with that last Howling Blast, but is going to hit pretty big spikes. I believe it is at the 15 threshold that you start getting that extra range. Excuse me, 10 heroes. So he's got the extra range already. So that is when you hit the major spike there. So you can threaten things like that.
That was a Dragon's Arrow, but it was short enough range. Nice scatter arrow, but it was short enough range. The further away back you are, the greater the stun. Unable to get the lockdown long enough.
Pretty bold move, but it doesn't hurt Tempo. That level of proactive play, once again, is Lorong sniffs out the rotation. Fan, Blessed Shield is going to land, but he has the escape in a second here.
Oh, just
barely
over the wall.
That was, if that happens a half a second later, that shadow goes over the actual terrain itself, and then if he gets the follow-up, it just puts in a, he's going to not be able to get that escape. That was well done by No Tomorrow for that rotation, but I'm not going to lie, but when I looked at that, I was actually, I think Larong's dismount was the reason that was not enough to set up that kill.
No Tomorrow in an interesting spot. Tempo Storm with enough gems for another turn-in. If Tempo Storm gets a turn-in at this point, as we'll see, that's going to be canceled. Cattle will try and have another interrupt. Does get that. This puts you into, well, hold on a second. If they get the kill, that changes things drastically here. That will make the defense much easier. If Tempo Storm gets this turned in from that earlier Webweaver turn-in, that means one keep, potentially two, maybe all three could fall, and that puts you in that weird 13.5 to 12 limbo if you're No Tomorrow, and that's the part that I feared with the Johanna. It's like, how do you move forward into this? How do you find the opportunities for the kills? And so that pick right there changes the landscape of this entire game.
And it does even more than just necessarily the timing of the kill, the power spike of the battleground, but the fact that that was an army of the dead with the stay a while and listen pop. That's 40 seconds at No Tomorrow, even knowing that it's a 5-man member of Tempo Storm, that they don't have to concern too much when it comes to the team fight itself.
That's another Dragon Arrow. That missed. They tried to snipe the Junkrat to get him locked down. So just off top, pretty much cleared up here. No minions for Tempo Storm to move forward. As we'll see Shrite deal with the final Webweaver here in the middle. See if Tempo Storm makes an aggressive rotation, but cleared up. Nicely done. No Tomorrow. It's hard to put into context what they accomplished there when you look at the grand scheme of how Tomb has played out when a team like Tempo Storm gets the early turn-ins. Now, it's No Tomorrow's game to, look, we get a turn-in, all of a sudden we can get the back-to-back, maybe triple back-to-back-to-back, and then start to really open this up.
Yeah, they're looking for the three-peat there. Fan, he's going to throw out one. Gets that interrupt on the Casanova. Jay Shrite going back towards top, worried about that experience as the 13 picking up for Tempo Storm. Vin with a nice scatter arrow. Gets a bit of poking and prodding onto Akaface. Iron Skin used there. Cattle not wanting to rush in there to maybe focus that down. One thing also, now looking at least some of the thought process from Cattle's performance here in this game, is with the Arthas value, I can't help but feel like part of it is that Iron Skin response, but getting the kill onto the Johanna afterwards has been, or excuse me, Jin, barely able to leap out. Howling Blast is dodged, but he's going to have to deal with this slow. Ardent Defender there. Akaface coming in to save the day. That's 32 gems. They cannot lose this. Tether is not going to be there. They get the Aegis, they get the cleanse, but the stay a while and listen, the Warden's Cage is only going to bring back Akaface. Last Rites goes down, and no reset yet.
Is it enough poison? Oh, Jin.
Calculated.
Dragon Arrow, come on, rip it. Wow. They get the kill onto Whitemane, but that could have been so much worse for No Tomorrow. They do have the Siege Giants that pushed out the bottom. They did manage to get a turn-in. It's this moment where I'm like, all right, a lot of heroics were used. Casanova, no Iron Skin left available. There's the Dragon Arrow, but another short-range Dragon Arrow, Dread. Vin, however,
Ancient Blessings, it hurts. 4-man proc
Oh,
there.
but Cattle.
Maybe in a tough moment, but the sidewall actually so low that he's not going to be too problematic. Rick Tire comes through, and is it going to get it from downtown? It will.
Wow, that is maximum value there. As Ven's still trying to get the takedowns onto No Tomorrow. No Tomorrow bought space in a small amount of time now with that Arthas kill, to where this is one of those situations where you ask the question, should we have let that Webweaver live another 5 seconds longer so we can wait for Arthas to come back and then contest this one? Because there isn't a small window now for No Tomorrow to get a turn in, which should mostly be uncontested, or at least not as easily contested.
In the breaking point of the 16 talents here just around the corner, this is one of those few moments left here for No Tomorrow to really restore the balance of Tomb of the Spider Queen. It's a good question. Jin with the double leap, the Blessed Shield goes for the triple leapfrog, and June goes down here.
Oh,
No Tomorrow finds themselves another kill there as the Dragon's Arrow thrown down. Howling Blast not going to land, but the turn-in is here. No 16 talents here available for No Tomorrow, but they are going to be able to threaten here without June.
I saw those scatter arrows bouncing around. I'm like, all right, if this goes here, then calculates here, then the interrupt comes. Okay, it didn't.
Yeah, the only person who can do math that fast is Jin.
Well, now No Tomorrow, they get the turn in, but they are down that talent tier. They do see that Deckard 5 seconds away from spawning, so they don't have to retreat as hard this early. That'll allow them to get 16 maybe in that downtime while they wait to see if Deckard's there. Cattle walks forward, able to complete that route with that level 1 completed, Dread.
Going to be a big playmaker as this game kind of advances onward. No Tomorrow has Jay Shrute on the bottom lane. Looking to prep that. Nobody on No Tempo Storm has made the transition down to be able to deal with that fan questioning if he wants to make that happen. But this is a tough web weaver phase, J-How. We knew that No Tomorrow would be willing to take this down the 16 talent tier, but this is a moment where I do feel like they were a little bit too passive, mainly with this bottom rotation, to where they wasted a lot of those gems.
Well, you have to consider that they don't have many in the bank, as we can see that number has appeared now. 24. Concussion Mine will knock back a couple of members, but Glaurung is sticking to Casanova. The Dragon Arrow is going to land.
Last
There's the last rights. That's going to confirm the kill. Glaurung super low, but he walks away. His Army of the Dead is out, and Catalan team, they're trying to confirm more as Jin and Thompson are locked in. That's one fan of Knives. Ardent Defender, you might just want to let that one go, because Jin, you're not living for long. That's a triple kill here for Tempo Storm.
And they waste no time. Move on to the night camp. 83 gems in their hands. Have the opportunity to set up for another Web Weaver phase after they siege up with that Web Weaver phase. As long as they don't lose any heroes, I think it is very realistic to expect that Tempo Storm could even find themselves nearing that third Web Weaver phase afterwards. This is a great job from Tempo, and it's going to be, I feel like at this point, minimum a keep on their half.
Riptire can help defend one wave.
This is
gutsy. This is going for the big play here.
Yeah, it's more in terms of siege and kill potential, and they have so much back row pressure now, and they see No Tomorrow that it's not going to be a problem. But if No Tomorrow had assumed this to be a call and rotated, it is a possibility that this is kind of one of those only way you lose this game type situations for Tempo Storm, which is why you see them comfortable using things like the stay a while and listen just to make sure they pick that up.
Well, No Tomorrow with that slow rotation means they forfeited that bottom lane in terms of momentary control. That Siege Giant still will be actively pursuing, and you mentioned maybe not just one keep, but two, and potentially game here, because now there's only so much you can respond to in the rotation. You can see Jay Shrite just got to that bottom lane, which means that there's not a lot of clear in this top lane. So this is a very good moment for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, and if Jay Shrite is going to be the off-lane clear, I'd like to see him be a bit more aggressive with that, knowing that Tempo Storm has everybody on the top half of the battleground here. Howling Blast ends up coming out, focus onto Jin as he leaps away. 20 seconds until he's going to have an Ardent Defender. Tempo, they're at the keep, but do they stop here? Their body language shows no as the Howling Blast comes through, and they march on to core.
I think they need to get this Riptire out before it is too late, as it might be too late as the damage comes in, and that's going to be Tomster falling. There's going to be some resets for Fan. Then the last rights will confirm another kill, and that was enough for Tempo Storm to execute this game quickly, as what was once a somewhat close game now ends in a 4-level lead for Tempo Storm.
But still, big credit there, I feel, at moments from No Tomorrow, able to try and hold on to a double Web Weaver phase, which is, again, in North America, not common phrases, especially when looking towards those teams finding themselves into the Crucible. But Tempo Storm, as a team too tough, they know how to deal with a lot of circumstances here, and they show it there as a unit, getting that final setup, final kills, and getting game one.
Yeah, that's always the thing, is Tempo Storm, it's kind of what separates them from not just some of the lower teams, but a lot of teams. I mean, this was a top 4 team at midseason brawl. They lost some, but they didn't lose the knowledge that they've had along the way. This is a team, they're smart, they're educated, they're skilled, they've got all the check marks across there. It's just bringing in a newer member has taken some time, but they still sit with a very good record, still in the number 2 seed. So despite everybody writing them off, they make things like that happen, and you're like, okay, that's good. Is it flawless? No. No Tomorrow gave them fits, but when you look at the end of it, it's still a 4-level lead for Tempo Storm, and they did it in a very calculated fashion on Tomb of the Spider Queen, made very good late game rotations that they do better than anybody.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, from a viewer's perspective, right? When you watch Tomb of the Spider Queen and Curse Hollow, those battlegrounds they don't show how big of a lead or how big of a disadvantage you have at all points in time. They're very kind of they convey information in a unique way. And so because of that, it gets it in a position where you can be a very dominant team and technically in control, even though numerically and statistically speaking, you're like, doesn't look like you've got that big of a power play. And you're like, but just give me 15 seconds and look at what that looks like now. And suddenly you're like, okay, this is actually going to be that much more problematic. And I think that's what you saw there from Tempo. No Tomorrow still played it very well by going for the double play, but you could see Tempo was like, even though it's the, oh, are they catching up at the 16 talent tier? It's like this Web Weaver phase is going to be a shot in the foot, and then they capitalized really well.
Well, the rotation there that we saw towards that boss, if No Tomorrow, if they respond earlier, maybe it looks different. But if they stay in that bot lane and clear out that bot lane, that bottom Web Weaver, far less threatening, maybe defend that top lane a little easier. So I think these are learning moments for No Tomorrow. They go back, maybe one rotation's quicker, maybe you don't make the rotation at all, and you just say, all right, we're going to